"Tom!" No answer. "Tom!" No answer. The old lady pulled her spectacles down and looked over them about the room. Then she put them up and looked out under them. She seldom or never looked through them for so small a thing as a boy. "There, I might have thought of that closet. What were you doing in there?" "Nothing. Nothing. Look at your hands. And look at your mouth. What is that truck?" "I don't know, Aunt." "Well, I know. It's jam. That's what it is." "Look behind you, Aunt." The old lady whirled round, and Tom was gone in an instant, scrambling over the high board fence. Aunt Polly stood surprised a moment and then broke into a gentle laugh. "Hang the boy, can't I never learn anything?" Saturday morning was come, and all the summer world was bright and fresh and brimming with life. There was a song in every heart, and if the heart was young, the music issued at the lips. There was cheer in every face and a spring in every step. Tom appeared on the sidewalk with a bucket of whitewash and a long-handled brush. He surveyed the fence, and all gladness left him, and a deep melancholy settled down upon his spirit. 30 yards of board fence, 9 feet high. Life to him seemed hollow, and existence but a burden. Jim came skipping out at the gate with a tin pail and singing "Buffalo Gals." Bringing water from the town pump had always been hateful work in Tom's eyes before, but now it did not strike him so. He remembered that there was company at the pump. White, mulatto, and Negro boys and girls were always there waiting their turns. "Say, Jim, I'll fetch the water if you'll whitewash some." Jim shook his head. "Old missus, she'd kill me. She never licks anybody. Whacks 'em over the head with her thimble, and who cares for that? Jim, I'll give you a white alley. I'll give you a bully white alley." Jim was only human. This attraction was too much for him. He put down his pail and took the white alley. In another moment he was flying down the street with his pail and a tingling rear, for Aunt Polly had come out and applied her slipper with some spirit. Tom began to whitewash with vigor. Presently Ben Rogers hove in sight, the very boy, of all boys, whose ridicule he had been dreading. Ben's gait was the hop, skip, and jump, proof enough that his heart was light and his anticipations high. He was eating an apple and giving a long, melodious whistle. Tom went on whitewashing, paid no attention to the steamboat. Ben stared a moment and then said, "Hi-yi, you're up a stump, ain't you?" No answer. Tom surveyed his last touch with the eye of an artist. Then he gave his brush another gentle sweep and surveyed the result as before. Ben ranged up alongside of him. "Say, I'm going in a swimming, I am. Don't you wish you could? But of course you'd rather work, wouldn't you?" Tom contemplated the boy a bit and said, "What do you call work?" "Why, ain't that work?" Tom resumed his whitewashing and answered carelessly, "Well, maybe it is, and maybe it ain't. All I know is it suits Tom Sawyer. Say, Tom, let me whitewash a little." Tom considered, was about to consent, but he altered his mind. No, I reckon it wouldn't hardly do, Ben. You see, Aunt Polly's awful particular about this fence. Right here on the street, you know, it's got to be done very nice." "Oh, come now, let me just try. I'll give you the core of my apple." "Well, here." "No, Ben, now don't. I'm afeard. I'll give you all of it." Tom gave up the brush with reluctance in his face, but alacrity in his heart. And while the late steamer Big Missouri worked and sweated in the sun, the retired artist sat on a barrel in the shade close by, dangled his legs, munched his apple, and planned the slaughter of more innocents. There was no lack of material. Boys happened along every little while. They came to jeer, but they remained to whitewash. By the time Ben was fagged out, Tom had traded the next chance to Billy Fisher for a kite, in good repair. And when he played out, Johnny Miller bought in for a dead rat and a string to swing it with, and so on, hour after hour. Tom had a nice, good, idle time all the while, plenty of company, and the fence had 3 coats of whitewash on it. If he hadn't run out of whitewash, he would have bankrupted every boy in the village. He had discovered a great law of human action without knowing it, namely that in order to make a man or a boy covet a thing, it is only necessary to make the thing difficult to attain. Tom presented himself before Aunt Polly, who was sitting by an open window in a pleasant rearward apartment. "May I go and play now, Aunt?" "What, already? How much have you done?" "It's all done, Aunt." "Tom, don't lie to me. I can't bear it." "I ain't lying, Aunt. It is all done." She went out to see for herself, and she would have been content to find 20% of the Tom talk true. When she found the entire fence whitewashed, her astonishment was almost unspeakable. Thank you for joining me for the first chapter of Tom Sawyer's Adventures. Don't forget to like and share this video. Join me next time, because the adventure is only just beginning.